Morning, everyone. Morning, Alex.
Morning, my brother.
How are you?
Can't complain. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. I'm in my happy place, so I'm very
Yeah,
excited. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to get another great episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub going.
No,
And yeah, with no more being said, I'm going to get right into the questions, eh?
sure.
So over the last week, I've been thinking about, the things that are responsible for momentum. And I wanted to just obviously dive into how you maintain your momentum in your life on a daily basis. And the question I have for you is, what are some of your daily rituals?
Hmm.
What are some of the things that you do consistently every day to structure your day and allow for you to maintain your momentum?
You know what? I think something about rituals is that it evolves as you go through different stages of your life, right? I used to
Yeah.
be very big on morning routines and daily routines and consistency, just because I think I needed it in that stage of my life. But as I've evolved and matured as a person, I've learned to become less reliant on routine, and I've tried to become more flexible, especially in terms of changing of locations. So the rituals that I do have tend to be things that doesn't I can do pretty much anywhere. So examples of this is I like to journal every day. I find that journaling gives me a clarity of thought that I just don't have when I'm not doing it. And it really helps me to like objectively look at situations and ideas in a different light. It's like when I get it on paper, it's almost like I'm looking at it from another person's eyes, you know?
Mm.
So
Mm.
journaling is a big one for me. Another one is prayer. I pray every day. I try and pray multiple times a day. And I find it brings me a lot of peace in my soul when I'm praying a lot. And I like to be close to God wherever I am. So like praying is a big one for me. Um I think another ritual which I would say I do maybe 4 or 5 times a week is like a daily meditation. So 10 minutes just trying to get outside of my thought my thought patterns and just be present.
Mm.
And I find when I'm doing that, it helps me to be less reactive to the day. You know,
Yeah.
I dictate what kind of emotional state that I'm going to be in when I'm meditating like that. But I think the big thing that I want to emphasize with daily rituals is they shouldn't become superstitions and crutches, where if you don't have the opportunity to do it, you now feel like you can't function. And the reason I bring that up is like I actually saw a guy by the name of Alex Hormozy speak on this, um, where he was talking about how daily routines are making people fragile. And when I heard him speak about that, I thought this guy's got a very good point, because he said if I must compete against someone in the market, I hope they're a person who has to do daily routines every day, because for him he can just roll out of bed and start working, which is a big competitive advantage. So that's what I would say about my daily routines and rituals. Like I have them, but I try not to be super emotionally attached. I don't want them to be crutches. I view them as like this is a bonus or a perk that I have. But the thing that I just need to be grounded at all times. That's my big thing.
Yeah.
What?
Sure. I like it. I like it. I like it. And I like how you said at the end there that, your daily rituals shouldn't crutch you,
Mm,
right? And that you need to have some sort of agility throughout your life so that if you don't do those daily rituals, you can actually function. And there's a quote that I really love by Bruce Lee, where there's in one of his movies where he says, "Do not think, feel,"
mm,
right? Because that permits way for you to obviously go about your day the best way possible, provided that you are commanding your thoughts to produce, you know, the attitude that you want for the day.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to speak on obviously the power of thought in your daily routine or daily ritual, right? Because have you ever noticed how your thoughts can trigger, the hormones in your body
Yes.
to react a certain way and therefore be responsible for how you feel?
100%. 100.
Yes, sometimes your hormones naturally will go into a certain state because of your diet or whatever you're going through in life. But your thoughts can also trigger hormones to give off a certain response and feeling. So
Mind
I
body
think
connection. It's real. It's been,
and
yeah, it's real.
yeah.
So big.
So I think that's for me the first thing in my daily rituals, thinking and activating my hormones through my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously walking my dog. I
Mm.
think that's a daily ritual that I do quite consistently. And then obviously just planning my day, just thinking of my day in the sense of what am I going to do today? How am I going to do it? What am I going to drop and what do I prioritize? Because yeah, I mean, you might have a plan, but that plan can change as you go by. So yeah, that's just rituals from my side. And I think you summed it up quite nicely.
I have
Yes,
one
sir.
more. I actually have one more that I forgot to mention, which I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, which has been great for me, is when I go to bed, um, what I do after I pray and I'm now going to sleep, I close my eyes and I do a mental recap of the day from the moment I wake up to the moment that I go to sleep. So I go frame by frame. I try and do it like a rewind. And I do it. So obviously, you have your internal dialogue where you're speaking to
Yeah,
yourself. I
yeah,
try and avoid speaking the recap. I try and actually do it as if I'm observing it, like watching it. And and the reason I do that is a bunch of things. I realized if you think about it, you don't remember a lot of your life. Most of the time, memory is very murky. You remember
yeah,
things that are emotionally charged, but you often forget the ordinary things, which is mostly your
yeah,
life, which is like
yeah,
80% of your life. And
yeah.
when I realized this, I wanted to be more deliberate in a practice of remembering the moments that make up my days. And the cool thing is when you do this like refresh of the day, you actually realize how many great moments you had throughout the day that you might not even be paying attention to or focusing on. So there's that's the one value. It's like you're being more observant about your life. And then the second one is for me, I've always been someone who struggled to fall asleep. I'm a light sleeper. And I found this to be a great way to stop my mind from bouncing around when I go to bed at night, like slowing my brain down. Because I'm dictating to my brain, listen, well, this is what we're going to think about, and that's it. And it's like putting your brain on the highway to sleep. That's a great way of putting it. It's like putting your brain on the
Yeah.
highway to sleep, this thing. So yeah, anyone who I don't know if everyone does this. I've never heard anyone else do it, but try it out to anyone that's listening. It's a cool practice, and I found it to be very beneficial for me.
I'm gonna try that, Alex. I haven't had any kind of sleep formula. I genuinely, I'm not gonna say by the time I get to bed, I'm tired or ready to pass out.
Hmm.
But obviously, at the stage I'm in my life, like having kids and stuff like that, I
Cool.
just get to my bed and knock out. But on the days where I can't, I'm definitely gonna try that. It sounds like an amazing formula.
Cool. Cool.
Cool. On to the next question, Alex. Your thoughts on working hard versus working smart. When is it appropriate and how does one find the balance between the two? Because I think both are relevant and both are valid.
Sure. Well, I guess the definition of working hard is one that's important because I think a lot of people associate working hard with physical effort or volume of hour, like volume of input. But in my mind, working hard is how much are you getting done? What's your output? What's your out yeah, your output. Um, And I guess that my whole approach to working is if you're not working smart, you're not working hard. Because to work smart is to think hard about the outcome and whether the choices that you're making and the actions that you're making is maximizing your progress towards that outcome. And it's the level of focus required to work smart, you know? So for me, like one of my practices that I do when I'm working is I always have a piece of paper next to me with the outcome of the task that I'm doing. And every like half hour, I just go looking at that outcome again and I'm like, am I actually doing the right work to bring myself towards that outcome? Because, it's also this is such a big question to you. Like, I know it seems very simple on the surface, but it speaks a lot to adding value to organizations and economics and capitalism, essentially. Like, because everyone is like, okay, well, we all work the same hours every day. So why does one person get paid more than somebody else? And the way to answer that question is to say, well, how broadly are you adding value? How much is your value being scaled? Because if you're working 8, 10 hours on something that only benefits one thing, one small, narrow thing, well, that is the value that you're adding, and it is limited to that. But if you're in your hours, you are able to add value to a broad scale of things, that means the value that you've added has been scaled accordingly. So who works harder there? You know, if your definition is input, then they both work the same. But if your definition is output, then it's the latter person. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on working smart versus working hard. I also think today, as knowledge workers, it's more important for us to make sure that the quality of action is high. The quality of the thought put into the action is high. It's like a
Yeah,
sprint.
yeah,
Okay. It's not,
yeah.
you're not working in a factory for 12 hours where the working hard is just pushing a button for 12 hours or pulling a lever for 12 hours. Like we can't work like that. You know, your brain doesn't function like that. So I view it as like Naval has this great metaphor for knowledge workers where he says we need to be like lions, where when you're hunting, it's explosive, it's violent, you very like intense. And then the rest of the time you rest so that you can act again at a high level. You know, that's my thoughts on it. What about you?
Sure, very interesting. And I mean, I like what you said there. Working hard is about output, right? I think, yes, there's some things where, your input will equal your output. But I think with where the world has gone now, in the sense that we are knowledge workers, the output can be manipulated, right? See, based on the fact that you are optimizing your input. So for me, obviously, working hard and working smart, I believe, is a sequence, you know. And when you're first beginning to work on something, you work hard at it because you want to understand it and you spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
But as you start to understand it and master it, you then need to start working smart by optimizing how you approach it to spend less time doing it and increase your output.
Yeah.
And through that, begin to be able to add more value on a broader perspective, like you were speaking about. So essentially for me, working hard is just being able to free up your time and increase your output so that you can add value in other areas of whatever you're working in,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I don't think there's any smarter way of getting ahead in life and doing more, right? Because like you said, you've said this numerous times, the more you do, and the more broader you work, the more value you add, and the more you shall receive back. And
Exactly.
that takes us back to the point that we always elaborate on is key man risk, you know?
Yeah.
How do you work so hard to then be able to optimize your workings and work smart so that
Yes.
you can add more value on a broad level and then become key man risk?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like how intelligent are you with the choices that you're making? I just think to myself, they talk, you talk about Warren Buffett, right? They say he spends a whole year thinking about one investment decision. So that whole year, he's not being, how do I say, he's not making actions that looks like on the surface that he's doing much, but actually he's thinking so much about this one action so that he's sure, as sure as he possibly can be, that it is the right action. In my definition, he's working hard and smart because a lot of people, when they say, okay, I want to do something, they don't think about what's the correct course of action. They just start doing it. And then because they chose that course of action, there's this like fallacy of, well, I need to just continue doing it. Even if I'm not getting the result that I desire, I'm just going to continue doing it because it's action, it's activity. It's like, have you seen those people who they want to get into shape? So they just run and they eat salads, but they don't have any understanding of like nutrition, strength and conditioning. They don't do any research. They just act, and they perpetually out of shape. Like they just don't. They complain all the time, and they say, "Well, this is just my life. I'm fat. I'm this. I'm that." It's like they don't consider changing courses of action. Like think of it like this as well, right? When you're a high performer, you are the kind of person who will take the most unpleasant, uncomfortable task and try and get it done first because
Yeah.
that is the highest leverage task. That is the
Yeah.
thing that's going to move the whole thing forward,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is the complete opposite of what most people do, which is to procrastinate that uncomfortable, unpleasant task until they cannot procrastinate it anymore. So who's working harder there? Because the guy who makes
Mm.
the uncomfortable choice is making the harder choice. It's also the smarter choice.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
flip, like redefining effort, redefining working hard. Like these things are important. And also like skill and leverage is a big thing. You can spend 8 hours filing stuff in paper where you print it out, you put it in a hard copy file. That's 8 hours of labor. Or you can save that stuff in a file on your computer in 5 minutes and spend the rest of your time working on something else that the company actually needs you to work on.
Yeah.
So who's working
Yeah.
harder?
That question answers itself, right?
Yeah.
That question definitely answers itself. Prioritization and redefining what effort means, I think, is quite key to master working hard versus working smart. Cool. So on to the next one, Alex. I want to know what your thoughts are on living for today versus living for tomorrow. What is the balance there? Because I'll say it again, both have benefits, right?
Yep.
But if you go on two extremes, both also have negatives and consequences. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on that and what the fine balance is regarding, achieving the optimum way of living when you
Yeah.
look at today versus tomorrow.
I would look at this from two perspectives of playing offense versus playing defense, right? So when I say playing from offense, I mean using the shortness of life to give you a sense of urgency and perspective. So that's the living for today concept, right? Saying, well, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So that means today is very valuable and I need to treat it accordingly. Then from a defense perspective, we can talk about living for tomorrow, where you say, well, I need to make choices today that the me of tomorrow is going to be okay with and maybe even happy with because I've set it up nicely for him. We talk about success. It's clear from the research that's been done into success is that delaying gratification is a very key part of the formula for being successful in life. It's making deliberate sacrifices today so that tomorrow can be better. And most successful people understand that, right? But you need to be careful that you don't procrastinate life until some point of being successful that you think is now going to allow you to live, you know? So I know I'm not giving you like a deliberate, like a yes, no, live for today or live for tomorrow answer, because I think both sides have merit. I don't think you should exclude either one. But
Yeah.
as it is with most things, balance is important. So I'll use a good example. Like there's a guy by the name of Brian Johnson. He's now this guy who is spending $2 million a year on reversing his biological clock. And he's incredible because he's really restored himself. He was a startup founder who was living the startup lifestyle. So very poor sleep, very poor nutrition, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's reversed his biological clock by like 20 years or something like that. Anyways, he wants to live to see 200. But this oak, he doesn't have any alcohol, doesn't have anything nice. He's kind of isolated because he can't socialize because he's just fucking doing tests all day. Like, is he living at all for today? I would say no, because everything is about tomorrow. So he's very extreme, you know? Whereas for me, I believe that you should have a bowl of ice cream with your loved ones every now and then. It's a good thing to do. Share a glass of wine with your dad at the braai, you know.
Yeah.
You can find so much fulfillment and joy in these little moments that you can savor today. And like we
Yeah.
said, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So that's my take on it. You know, offense and defense. Like from the offense perspective, remember that tomorrow is not guaranteed, so have a sense of urgency. If something
Yeah.
pisses you off, ask yourself, you know what, if today was the last day that I was alive, would I want to be upset about this? Is it worth it? You know? And also, if I was going to die tomorrow, would I be okay with the fact that I didn't make this choice? If something is scaring you, you know, for me, we talk about people that stay in relationships for too long, or people that don't ask the person out, or people that are working at a job that they hate, or whatever you want to call it. They're on the brink of making decisions that are very uncomfortable. It would be useful for them to kind of remember tomorrow's not guaranteed. So if today was your last day, how would you want to spend it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well answered. Well answered. I
Thank you.
mean, I'll just add on that by just saying that, I think delayed gratification definitely is an important part of, I think, long-term happiness and success. However, delaying gratification is highly dependent upon where you derive your happiness.
Yeah.
So I think the living for today versus living for tomorrow concept can be broken down into obviously different topics. But like I'll speak about just happiness and finances as one, right? Because I think those are the two things that we chase in life: happiness and financial stability.
Yep.
And I think happiness, depending on the fact that the source of where you derive your happiness is correct. So inside, family, non-material, special moments. If you can tick those boxes, then you are living for now.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people get wrong is that they derive their source of happiness from materialistic possessions. And
Yes.
that they feel that in order for me to be happy today, I must travel, I must buy this, I must do this. I cannot wait. What if I die now? Because I might not be here tomorrow.
Yeah. Well said.
And therefore, yes, of course, some people don't make it long. That's not our decision. But in the event that you do get a long life, you actually sacrifice that sustained or long-term happiness that you could have gained
Yeah.
in your financial ability aspect of life. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it's just about where you derive your happiness. If you can derive your happiness internally from special moments and from family, from
That's
non-material financial side,
yeah.
and therefore create long-term success for yourself and for your loved ones should you go on and they remain behind.
Well said.
Cool. The last one.
All right.
I just want to know your thoughts on universal laws and principles that you live by. If you could just give me three.
Three. Okay, three. Well, the top one is easy for me. Truth is my favorite universal law. Like truth and honesty is a big one for me. And I am very truth driven in the sense that I just if I feel like something needs to be said, I have to say it. Um, and I believe that truth is the thing that drives the world forward. You know, truth leads to scientific discovery. Truth leads to reconciliation between peoples. Truth is the best. I feel like I sound like a priest that I'm saying this, but it's so true. Truth is number one. Um, the second one is if okay, growth. Growth is a big one. So you're either growing or you're dying. There's no temporary staying the same. You're either growing or you're dying. And I believe you
Yeah,
can grow until your last moment on this planet. You know, I hate it when people say, I'm too old to change. Bullshit. You can always change, and change is growth.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
would say that
yeah,
is my second one. And then the third one, I would say, is purpose over pleasure. That's a big one for me. So, you know, we talk about happiness. I think happiness is like a sugar high, but joy is what really nourishes you. And when you live for purpose, you will find joy, which is it's the antidote to depression. It's the antidote to sadness in this life. You know, joy is part of gratitude, you know. So just having you can find joy in the most simple things, you know, sharing a cup of coffee with a loved one or even by yourself. You know, you count as a loved one as well, by the way, for yourself.
well, thank you. Yeah, 100%.
um and so yeah, if I had to like recap that, I would say truth, growth, and purpose over pleasure, which is joy.
Yeah,
What about you?
yeah. So the first one I'm going to state is the last one that you mentioned, purpose over joy. I think that, sorry, purpose over pleasure.
Yeah.
I think that is, yeah, that's a secret antidote, right? Because I think happiness is a byproduct of joy.
Yeah.
Like joy is sustained. Joy is a feeling, right? It's not temporary. Right? When you feel joyful, uh, you feel like you're in heaven, right? And that's the state that you want to achieve. And money cannot give you joy,
Yeah.
right? Joy is derived internally, right? And it comes from things that you can't attach value to. Happiness, I think you can attach value to at times.
Yeah.
So that's the first one that I'll mention. The second one that I'll mention is I always say this, just treating others well.
Mm.
I cannot overemphasize that point because I mean life is about how you impact others in society, right? And like you said a couple of days ago, stoicism is about being harsh on yourself and forgiving others. So that's the second one. And then the third one for me would be finding your purpose if you don't have it yet, right? So the reality here is that I think your purpose is linked to your inner voice,
Yes.
and I still don't believe I find my inner voice yet. I think I have my intuition and I think I have a solid gut that guides me here and there. But I don't think I've found my inner voice yet, my inner child. I have conversations with myself in my mind,
Yeah.
but I am not yet at the stage spiritually where my soul speaks to me, right? So I think that's another universal
And
principle that
I can
that I
help
try to live by, but I'm not yet there.
this inner voice that you speak of, your inner child. I've
Yeah,
spoken about a book before with you in a previous podcast, but it's that Holistic Psychologist by Dr. Nicole Pereira.
yeah,
Her
yeah,
whole book is about finding your inner child and learning how to like speak with them. And I did this practice with this book where, yes, this was actually very emotional, I must be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's called an inner child meditation, and a writing a letter to yourself, your inner child. And geez, bro, I'm not even gonna lie to you. When I did this meditation, I started crying. I was like,
Yeah.
you realize even today, as a man, you are carrying that child with you inside of you. And
Yeah.
when you are like overly emotional to things, or like something bothers you or you get angry, it's your child that is reacting. It's not you.
Yeah.
And you learn how to listen to the child and to reassure the child as an adult to be like, hey, little guy, don't worry, I'm here.
Yeah.
Adult
Yeah.
me has got this. You can just
Yeah.
chill. We'll sort this out, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're curious about, learning more about your inner child, I would recommend that book because it's a brilliant book. It's changed the lives of millions of people around the world. It's built a whole community of people. So yeah, couldn't
Yeah.
speak
Yeah.
highly enough about it.
And I like how you spoke about um, when you said that when you get angry and stuff, it's not you reacting, right? It's your inner child reacting.
Yeah,
And the reason why I say it's important to try find your inner voice, especially as an adult, is because as you grow up, you become conditioned, right?
yeah,
So you go to school, you go to university, you get into certain social environments, and the more you become socially conditioned, the more you drift away from your inner child,
correct.
right? And I think everyone's journey in life is to first you could separate and to come back to yourself, right?
Yeah,
To be one with yourself again. And I
correct.
think it is in the process of where you become one with yourself that you're able to accelerate your life, that you're able to find joy, that you're able to delay gratification, that you're able to be happy with yourself
Mm,
first before needing others to be happy. So, yeah, I think daily everyone should try to listen to that inner voice. Like I said, I don't think I've mastered it yet. I don't hear it every day, but I'm getting better at it. But I think, there comes a point in life where you want to be able to hear your inner voice every single day
yeah.
because you've worked so hard to kind of get back to that inner voice and be in tune with it all the time.
Journaling helps with that. Journaling helps a lot with that because you are
Yeah.
speaking to yourself when you journal, which is
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah. 100%, bro. So I think that is an episode. Very spiritual, deep one there, but I'd just like to thank you for answering those questions like a master once again. Um, and yeah, I look forward to many, many more, as always.
I'm liking this. I'm liking this with you running the show. It's good. I feel like it goes very well when you do that.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because we ask different type of questions, right?
We do
Which is quite nice. But I think at the end of the day, what comes out of it is still
quality,
useful from a spiritual and theoretic perspective.
100%. All right, everybody. That's us for today. Hope you got some value out of it, and we'll see you next time.